Okay, there we go. Mic is working. Well, hello everyone to this beautiful Monday. Yeah, Maintenance Monday. So today, if you notice, I have this big thing has moved out of its corner from over there into the middle of my shop. On Friday, when I was running the plasma cutter, I had one of the lines snap. So normally, this end would be on here, and that would actually connect the two cylinders together, and it snapped right off. See if I can show you that. Just snapped off. Now, I will admit, the air compressor is 20 years old, and with time, it is just gonna wear out. This one actually looks like possibly the flange just kind of squished itself and let go. That's what it more looks like than sheared off. So now that this is gone, my air compressor doesn't work. Now, the great thing is, this is actually a common part, which almost every V-shaped air compressor, so multi-piston or cylinder air compressor, will have a tube that connects the two. And I was able to go on Amazon and pick up a nice shiny new one. Now this one is slightly longer than the original, but that's okay because these do flex. So it's not too much longer. So just a comparison between the two. So it's not too much longer. Let's see if I can get it spaced out. Yeah. So it's a little bit longer, but not too much. So I figured it would be a great time to go over maintenance with the air compressor. So I've already drained the air, unhook it, and drain the oil. Mostly just because it's lighter without that. And hobbled it over here, slowly walked it around. Now, of course, these air compressors with a big tank like this, all the weight's at the top. So when you are moving these, you have to be very careful not to tip it over. Normally, how I walk it in my shop is literally move it a little bit, swivel it around, and go from one leg to the next and move it around that way. Seems to work. It takes a little bit longer, but it's hard to get a dolly underneath here. And also, a lot of them will have a drain at the bottom, so you don't want to knock that. So, as for maintenance, there's a couple of things. So, I gotta fix that hose, or that line. I gotta do an oil change, and also inspect the belt and check my air filters. Now, I didn't check to see if I had any spare air filters before planning this. Well, I guess kind of getting into this. So I thought I had a set, but I don't have a set of replacement ones. They're on order. They come in Thursday, but for now, I will use the set that's in here. I'll just clean them up as best as I can for now. And then Thursday, it's a quick pop off, pop on. I'll show you that when we get into it. Now, another change is with this camera over here, the secondary camera, we have a longer cable to it. So, not only am I able to show you the vise a little bit better, I can do a little bit more down onto the vise. I'm also going to be able to show you a little bit more around the shop, which is going to be helpful today because we're going to go onto the back of this air compressor so I can actually go almost everywhere in the bottom of my shop right now, which is really good. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually take this cover off. This is the cover for the pulley and the belts and all that. And I'm going to quickly do a little wipe down in there and check the belt, make sure it is still good, and all that other fun stuff, and also check the tension on the belt. So this particular model, this cover here has 3 bolts, one on either side and then one on top. And depending on what model you have and all that, that might change. So it's usually bolted on somehow or screwed on somehow. My particular model has their 1/2-inch bolts, as in you need a 1/2-inch socket for it. And I will admit, how I got this, I've had this for a while, this particular air compressor. It's probably going back, I want to say almost, it's got to be at least 10 years, maybe longer. I bought it used from a guy that did woodworking, and he didn't have the what I would consider the cleanest shop. Apparently I have a chestnut sitting in there. The bloody squirrels. So he didn't have the cleanest shop. And if you can see on, like, this is sawdust here. I have actually not opened this really since I got it, because I haven't needed to. So like, everything's coated in a little bit of sawdust. So while I'm back here, I'm going to actually get my respirator on. And I'm going to just lightly brush off some of this stuff. I'm not looking for a complete clean here. I don't think it really needs it. Now obviously you can clean it how much you want to. So I'm just taking a counter brush and just going over and knocking some of this down. So again, I'm not going crazy with dusting it off. Now, I will say I have the power turned off on this, so I have no problem with touching this and stuff like that. Now, I'm just inspecting the belt, and it does have a little bit of fraying up in here. Just show you that. Just a little bit of fraying up in here. So it is not terrible at this point in time, but it is going to be something I will take note of and buy a replacement belt. So what I'm doing is I'm going over the belt just to make sure everything else looks okay. Also, I'm going to take note of the size of the belt, which for my particular model is 530. So this is a 4L 530. So while I'm here, I'm going to write that down so I don't forget. So because of the fraying of the belt, I know I'm going to have to replace this eventually. So we're going to do that in a future time. Another thing that you have to check on the belt is tension. Each manufacturer will have a little bit of information in the manual, hopefully, of what you should have your tension set at, roughly. But most of the time, you want to have a deflection of 3/8 or 1/2 inch. So how do you check that? You're going to take a straight edge to the belt, and then with thumb pressure, pull it down and see how far it actually will allow you to pull down. Now you can do this either on the top or down at the bottom, depending on what space you have. And you just want to make sure that when you pull up on the belt or push down on the belt, that it is deflecting about 3/8 to 1/2 inch. Mine looks okay for now. If it was out a little bit, that's when you have to take your motor and pull it in a way to either tighten or loosen. You don't want your belt so tight that it doesn't have a little bit of play in it, but you also don't want it too loose where it's going to be slopping around and skipping. So that's everything back here I'm going to do today. Obviously, if I wanted to, I could clean that up a lot more, but I don't think for this video I really will do that. Now, why I got an air compressor in my shop, currently it's mostly because my plasma cutter. So I have a CNC plasma cutter that I do my own forge and blanks with. And one of the reasons why I did that is because in my particular area for plasma cutting, it's either my stuff is not enough quantities for them to take it on, or their lead time is way too high. So I would have to order in tons of blanks, like 50 plus blanks of something, which is okay if it's a product that I know I can sell that. But if I'm doing product development kind of thing, like trying out new products, it doesn't really help very much. Also, it limits the amount of custom work I can do from a plasma cutter point of view. Also, I was not very happy with some of the quality that I was getting from some of the cutters. So that's why I got a plasma cutter in my shop. Now, do you need a plasma cutter for a blacksmith shop? No, not at all. Actually, I would argue you don't need a compressor at all for a blacksmith shop. The only tool that I can really think of from at least a tool making blacksmith that I like to consider myself as. The only thing I could think of is for a die grinder or possibly a wire wheel, both of which you can get electric version of. So having it run on air is not, terribly important. Now, the reason why I got a compressor in my shop was not because of a plasma cutter, because I really didn't have a plasma cutter at that point. It was actually because of sandblasting. So I worked at a place where we did powder coating, but the shop itself didn't offer sandblasting. So I'm like, well, that can't be that hard, right? Like, all you're doing is shooting sand with air. So I got a cabinet, did little stuff, then eventually I got a bigger pot, and the little compressor I had at that point couldn't keep up, so this came available. I think I paid $500 for it. Yeah, sure. And it's been good. This is the first time I've actually had anything go wrong with it. So, this was made in, well, that's the hard thing. I don't know when it's made. I know the tank was certified in 2005. So we're already looking at the tank being 20 years old, and I would imagine all the rest of it is that same year. So we're looking at a 20-year-old compressor. And I've had no issues with it other than this line going. So I think the next thing I want to go on about is let's go talk about the air filters. Now, how often you should clean the air filters and or replace the air filters, that's going to depend on A, how much you use it, and B, how dirty your shop is. Now that I've gone where the majority of the work this compressor does is with the plasma cutter, that means it has got a lot dustier, I think, compared to when I was doing blasting. Because blasting, I was doing it either upstairs or I was outside. So the air compressor itself wasn't getting really dirty. Where now, the only thing between my plasma cutter and this compressor is a filing cabinet that I keep tools in. So what I just did was I took off the air intake filters for this particular model, and the filter itself just sits, so there's a little like cubby kind of thing, carriage or whatever you want to call it for this. Now unfortunately this one is a little bit twisted and beat up. It still seals pretty good. I'm not sure how you even, something must have dropped on it to get it this banged up. It does still work quite okay, so I haven't gone in yet to really reshape this. But these guys, the whole like carriage kind of thing, you can pick up these on Amazon, and they're relatively inexpensive. I think one of these will set you back around 17 Canadian, so not terrible. And then the air filter itself is this little guy, and I run paper ones. You can get foam ones. This particular model of compressor originally came with foam ones when the first owner had it. I've always had it with, he swapped them out for these paper ones. I personally prefer the paper ones itself than the foam ones. It will do a better job. at filtering the air going into your pump, which will mean, you know, longer life on your pump and longer life on your oil. Now this guy, as you can see, he should be bright and yellow or orange, and he's not. So normally when it gets this bad, because I have blown them out a couple times, I would actually just replace this completely. You can get packs of these on Amazon or at Princess Auto, Harbor Freight. You just have to make sure that the size you're buying is the same size that you're replacing. And that's just a simple, most of them, they measure the outer diameter, inner diameter of the hole, as well as the height. So like I said, I got these ordered for Thursday, but today's Monday. So how I clean these out, normally when I'm cleaning these out, I will still have air in the tank. So I will go with a blower and blow inside, so it blows out of the filter. You can also just use a vacuum, rub it over. To get any of the big stuff, you can do light tapping on something to loosen it up and all that. But definitely blowing it out or vacuuming it would be so much better than just tapping it. Yeah. So I'm not going to like really clean these guys out because I already have more coming. So I'm just doing a rough tapping of them, and that's it for this guy. Going back together is pretty easy. So on here, let's see if I can get you closer. Yeah, we'll get you closer. So here is the little thingy-majiggy, I don't know what else to call it, pin, whatever, that this screws into the side of the cylinder. Let's see if I can get you. Pick you up a little bit. And can I get you? Okay. So this goes into the side of the cylinder. This back thing about will slide on top. Then you put your filter in. The outside case will go onto that pin, and it should fit on the back body. Now, like I said, this one is a little squished from something, so I have to have it sit in a certain way to actually get it to close. The other one will be a lot easier to do all this too, because it's not squished and misshapen like this one is. And then you just tighten that. It doesn't have to be too tight on there. We'll just do the same thing for the other one. It's just a wing nut on the end. Hello, Nate. No, it's only a V2. This is actually an Eagle. You missed all the good parts. So I'm taking off the filters right now. So that was just taking the body of the filter off. So as you can see, I think maybe it is not the cleanest in there. So we're just going to give it a wipe down. Actually, I might actually replace both of these things, because this particular one is missing its gasket. So yeah. So I'm just going to quickly wipe off the inside of these guys. This one's looking a little nasty too. Now, I'm not going crazy on cleaning this. Just trying to get as much of that dust out as possible. If you want to, you can always clean more. It's yours. If you want to make it look pretty, you can. I'm not really needing to do that. Another thing you want to make sure is clean up the little tube at the bottom. This is where the fresh air, this is where the air comes in. Not necessarily fresh, but whatever air is in your shop. Hard to hear my mic, you think? Really? Uh-oh. Oh, I'm not on the right. How's that? Sorry, I was on the wrong mic. I have 3 mics in here, so... Actually, I have 4 mics in here if you include the laptop. Yeah, sorry, I had the wrong mic on. So, yeah. Anyways, I'm just cleaning these out. Just use whatever rag. You don't have to really care about what you use. So the pipe. Now, if you're new and you haven't seen from the beginning, the pipe that snapped was this guy here. This should be on there. It is flanged on the end, or supposed to be. And I think what happened is over time, over the 20 years that this has been running, that flange has just, worked out. Yeah, popped right off. Nice thing is, which I found out on Friday, is you can easily get a replacement on Amazon. You just have to measure what length they are and what size of threads they are. Basically what it will thread onto. Most of them, that's how they tell what is the total length, as well as what's the diameter for the inside of this. So basically what you're screwing on. Now, you might not get a perfect size. That is okay, as long as you're a little bit bigger. Those are meant to flux, and you can bend them into whatever shape you want. So a little bit off is okay. Oh yeah, so I'll show you up there. Those heads are actually offset a little bit, so you need a little bit of flex on this. This is just a copper tube that's inside. Actually, this might be aluminum. Yeah, this is just an aluminum tube with a bright orange. I think the original was aluminum as well. Yeah, it looks aluminum. And then it just has this really cool coil spring on the outside. That's supposed to be to cool down the pipe a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. And this was like, I think $15 Canadian. So for me to go and replace that tube inside there, which you can definitely do. You can pull this spring off. It does just slide off. And put a new pipe, reflange it with the new ends on it. You could fix that, but for $14, $15, it was easier to buy a new one than it was to find my flange and tools. Yeah, the flange and tools would have been more expensive than the replacement. Well, so how was the weekend show? Well, the weekend show was what I expected. For people that don't know, over the weekend I did a local show here in my town, in Milverton, which is a small little community. And twice a year they do a little show, usually in spring, and then usually a little bit closer to Christmas time. They have thought of maybe adding one in the summer, maybe. We'll see. Had a lot of good vendors, which was nice to see. Some vendors I've never seen before come by. Didn't even realize that they were crafters like that around here. So it was good to meet some new people. Sales-wise, it was what I was expecting. So yeah, I use it. My stuff really is not suited or set up really for a small farmer's market kind of deal. I'm more in to the bigger shows, like your medieval fairs and all that. So I would actually have to refigure a lot of my stuff for farmer's market stuff. So yeah, it was okay. I can't beat the price for the table. The table was relatively cheap. So renting the spot was relatively cheap. It's a 5-minute drive for me. And it was a 4-hour show. So in total, I think I spent 5 hours, you know, by the time you set up and stuff like that. So maybe 5.5. So it was good. It was good. It was what I expected. So the winter one I do a lot better with because people are looking for gifts. Where the spring one, I do okay. So now that we got that back on, and so all I was doing was just banging out as much dust as I can out of the filters that are in this little thing. So with the filters, like I said, it depends on how, like the air filters, it depends how long, how dirty your shop is, like how dusty it is, will dictate how often you need to clean them or replace them. Normally in my shop, because now I'm running the compressor mostly only when I'm running my plasma cutter, it gets kind of dusty around there, and it's like basically right beside each other. It's not a good setup yet. I clean out my filters basically once a month in my heavy working months. So I won't do it, say, December, January, or February when it's really cold, because I'm not normally out here using the air compressor. But like when it comes to like spring, summer, and fall, every so often, like every other week or something like that, I will actually just blow them out. And then once a year, I like to replace them completely. I might up that a little bit. I might up that to put new ones in halfway through the year, depending on how much I use it and how much plasma cutting I do. Those were really dirty. So I am gonna let's do the pipe now. Let's do that pipeline. Let's see how I can bring you over. Whee! So unfortunately, because this thing is so tall and my ceiling is so short, all my lighting is probably going to be terrible with this guy. So I'm going to try and get you up as high as possible for this. Oh, and if you missed, I actually got a longer cable for this one camera, so I can actually really zoom in on that vise. Like, really get on top of that vise so you can see what I'm doing. Let's see if I can see what I'm doing. Oh, whoop. Get right on top of that vise so you can actually see what I'm doing. Ooh, ho, ho, ho. You guys are getting spoiled. Wait until I get the one up in the grinding room. Okay, so if I can get you zoomed in on this, I probably won't be able to get you very well. Again, this thing is only so tall, and the compressor is too tall. So you can kind of see where I have to go with this. So on the back of the compressor, on the 2 cylinders, this one here is on the back of the one closest to the camera. And that is the outlet. So that is the thing that actually goes to the tank. And then if you look right here where my finger is, that's the other piston or cylinder. So there's supposed to be a line here to here. And that is this line here. So for this guy, the easiest way to do it is to put it on the one that is connected to the tank itself. So where this is, there's actually a line going down here that goes into the top of the tank. So the easiest way to do it is get that one in first, or at least the way I think is the easiest way to do it is get that one in first. It's actually the hardest one from a space point of view. And that is because, like I said, my compressor, the cylinders are offset a little bit. So this cylinder here, the back one I'm working on right now, is actually further back and closer to the guard than the other one. And this just screws in. It's not any fancy thing. And my particular model takes 15/16, which I had out. And where did I put it? Ah, here it is. So my particular model is it takes a 15/16, and it's going to be fun to try and tighten this with the guard in place. So I'm just going to tighten it as much as I can by hand, and then come into it with a wrench and finish it off. And again, this one is the tougher one because of how the cylinders are sitting. So I'm going to tighten that as much as I can. And then for the next one, I'm actually going to have to bend the tube up and a little bit forward. Which sounds easy, and it is. This is just an aluminum tube. And the closer you can get it to the original size that it was, the better. Unfortunately, mine is a little bit longer than the original. So bending this is going to be a little bit more tricky than I want it to be. But even the original did have a bend in it. And you're just going to bend it so it actually will go into the other side. I'm actually going to put gloves on because the little spring on the outside is a little bit sharp. What a terrible, terrible shot. Oh. Can I get a better one? I doubt it, because I'm going to be in the way for that one. Oh well, it is what it is. I wish I could raise this up like maybe another 6 inches would be nice. But anyways. And when you start threading this, you want to make sure that you're not cross-threading the bolt. Okay, tighten it by hand as much as the giant ones would be perfect. Guy needs some googly eyes. Yeah. Oh, maybe right on the filter box. Yeah. Googly eyes right here. Right on the filter things, right? No? Big giant ones? Anyways. I'll take that in consideration. So now that I fought with this and got it on, I got to grab my wrench again because I left it over here. Then we just tighten it. And these are, you know, your standard lefty-loosey, righty-tighties. No, like, crazy left-handed threads. And you don't need a lot of tension on these or like torque on them. You just want it snug. And then if you want, you can make your tube a little bit more pretty afterwards. I'm not going to really concern myself a little bit too much about that. And even though this is an aluminum tube, it's kind of short, so bending it is not necessarily the easiest thing. So you might need some leverage. You want to try and not pinch it or collapse it while you're doing any movement of it, because you want as much air going through this as possible. And somehow my spring thingy has now got jammed. My spring thingy. Now this spring on the top only helps cool down the tube a little bit, because when you are compressing air, you do generate heat with it. So if you do have to replace this pipe and are not able to get a replacement as easily as I did on Amazon, you could just take a piece of thin wall copper pipe that is used in plumbing and do make your own. So right now the spring is the spring coolant spring kind of got a little snagged halfway. So I'm just gonna see if I can grab it with a pair of needle nose pliers and kind of convince it down. If not, that's okay. It will still function. Just maybe not as good. Actually, this little spring, coolant spring, was tighter, as in it wasn't as spaced out with the original one than it is with this one. So I must have got a little kink in this hose when I was putting it on, but it doesn't look like it's too flattened. So it might have been just as I was bending it. And that's why this thing is not sliding. It is very snug against the tube. So that's why it's a little bit more of a pain for me to move it, because if I got like if I misshape that tube too much, it won't actually move too well. But for what I'm thinking right now, it is good enough for now. I can always go back and make that a little purtier afterwards, but I think it's okay. Like I said, this is just to cool down the air a little bit going into the tank. That helps with moisture. But it also doesn't really necessarily need it per se. Anyways, that's that. Now I gotta do the oil. So one thing I did do, modifying on this, I say modifying, add to this, is this is where your oil comes out. So when you want to drain your oil, there's often a little spigot that comes out from the bottom of your compressor. Now normally it is just a cap that goes in the bottom of this tube. Well, what I've done is I've got a really cheap valve on here, so I can actually just remove this whole plug on here without the oil flying down on me. So I can actually hook up a hose onto this, so I don't have to like hold a jug here while I'm draining this. Now I've already drained the oil out of this, so I don't have to go through that, but normally it's just a plug like this, and I've added the valve. That way when I'm changing, like I said, when I'm changing the oil, I can easily get one of those hose bibs, screw that on, put the hose in my jug, and that way I don't have to muck around with pans and whatever else. Yeah, it's just one of those nice little things. And I wish manufacturers did that, where they had a shut-off valve on there too. Now, I would not trust just a shut-off valve by itself. That's why the plug goes back in afterwards. And this is all Teflon taped nicely up too. So for the oil, the oil fill is this little thing right here is the oil fill. And it is bloody tiny. So tiny that getting a funnel for it was, you know, yeah. Getting a funnel for it was a little hard. That's why I actually have two funnels put together. Two funnels put together. Yeah. Now, how much oil to put in it, that you should refer to your owner's manual. The manufacturer of this particular compressor setup was nice enough to actually provide the pump model on the front sticker right down in there. Actually has a pump model right here. So it was really easy to go onto the internet and look at how much oil this particular one takes. And it takes 24 ounces, or that's basically 1.5 cups of compressor oil. Now, compressor oil, you can buy like this in a big jug. Now, you want to make sure you have the compressor pump oil and not the air compressor tool oil. It's two different things. You do not want to use something like motor oil in your air compressor. You want to have an oil that doesn't have any detergents in it. The seals on air compressors are normally not made to handle any extra additives in it. So you want to make sure you get the proper air compressor oil. So I'm using a measuring cup. Sorry, I was wrong. It is 3 cups, not 1.5. Sorry. So this one takes 24 ounces. So I'm gonna do 16 ounces first, because my measuring cup only does 16. And it is a little colder in the shop today, so the oil is a little bit thicker than I like. And I just lost a little bit, but it shouldn't be bad. Now, anytime I'm doing my oil, I only use the capacity amount as a guideline, just to get a ballpark of how much I need. Of course, you might have oil that didn't fully drain out. So you want to make sure that you don't go crazy and put too much oil in. So what I will do is I'll do the 16 ounces first, and then I'll get another 8 ounces to hit my 24 set up, but I won't pour all of that 8 ounces in at once. I'll do like maybe 4 ounces, let it sit, see where it is on the oil level. And then add as I need. It is easier to add more than it is to take out. What a terrible, terrible shot. That light is terrible. Well, does it look better with the light off? Yeah, oh, it does. Okay. A little bit. So like I said, I'll pour 4 ounces in now, or roughly 4 ounces. And then I'm going to check where I am with my level. And how to check your oil level is on your compressor, there should be a little glass window thingamajiggy on it. Let's see if I can get you in a little bit closer. Now, some of these will have a sticker on it that will tell you how far up you're supposed to put your oil. They'll usually have a max and min level. Most of the time you want it up 3/4 of the way. So I want to, now obviously you're not going to see this at all. See if I can, I want to see if I can get it where you can see the level. You might not be able to. No, I don't think I'm going to be able to show you the level. Because right now, we're just about there. So we're almost where we want to be. I actually don't think it's going to take the rest of the whole 24 ounces. So I'm just going to put basically maybe an ounce or 2 in. And another reason why you want to change your oil a little bit more than what I have in the past is these glass or plastic, depending if it's glass or plastic, they will end up getting a wee bit dirty if you don't clean often enough, like change your oil often enough, and it's really hard to see your oil line. So I'm just going to put a little bit more in because we're not quite where I want to be. You want to be basically halfway to 3/4 of the way up in that glass. So at that point, I'm actually going to probably stop it, like not put any more oil in. I check my oil level once a week if I'm using it throughout the week. Actually, basically any time I start up the compressor, I will check, quickly look at the oil level. It is so easy to check. You just look at the glass. That it's so worth it just to look. Now, if you're using a compressor every day, you can probably get away with, you know, once a week checking. Now, how often you change your oil, that is a really good question that you should look at your manual for. I have seen completely different numbers, and I can't figure out like a solid rule. When do we heat it up and hit it with a hammer? What do you mean? When are we going to do that? Come on. Come on. We don't do that anytime soon. Why would we do that? Okay, so there's the oil in it. And actually, I should have probably kept the cover off a little bit on the back so I can actually turn it by hand. So, rule of thumb with oil changes. A lot of it's going to depend on how dirty your shop is, how well you actually clean your filters, how often you change your filters as well, like your air filter, air intake. What I have been doing is not changing the oil. I'm going to be honest. I haven't changed the oil since I got this thing, and it's been well overdue. And I probably shouldn't have left it that long. What I am going to start doing, because now I have the plasma cutter is actually a decent part of my business, that I will be doing that at least once a year, doing the oil change. The oil that came out of that was very, very black and sludgy. So I know that was not good for the pump. And this pump here, I can buy a replacement for. I can buy the exact same pump, actually. They still manufacture them, or are still available. And it runs $550, I believe, which is more than what I paid for the whole thing back, 10 years ago or whatever. Now you can buy replacement pumps from other companies. I think Viver has something similar, and I think they're around $200. Don't quote me on that. I didn't really look that close. Yeah. Do you need a compressor in your blacksmith shop? No, not really. No. Now, if you're thinking you're going to get a compressor because you're going to have one of those air-assisted bottle jack presses, I've been there. I had one, and I would never go back. So that's a whole nother story with that guy. But why I ultimately got rid of my my air-assisted bottle jack press was it was slow. Really, really slow. My opinion is there are some good companies out there right now building ready-to-use hydraulic presses. And I will guarantee you that the 12-ton hydraulic press that Cole Iron Works sells will extremely outperform anything you can make with an air-assisted bottle jack. They're just too slow. It does help, and I did run for 2 years with one. I have videos of it. I did make axes with it and some hammers. But it takes a long time. So I would say don't buy a compressor. Don't buy that bottle jack press that you're thinking of. Save your money and buy a hydraulic press. It's so much better. That's for you, Nate. Don't get sucked in with those bottle jack presses. Oh. Anyways, you want me to heat up stuff, and yeah, the only reason why I would say it might be a good idea to start off with an air-assisted bottle jack is if you were planning on doing hammers and axes and that, or something else that assisted air bottle jack press can help with. So if you're also going into maybe forming dishes like bowls where you have die set up and it's not critical that it gets squished at a certain, like, well hot, that might be useful. Doing like pressing the head onto your handles, that also could be, good. But you will very quickly outgrow it. And then if you don't have something that the air compressor can do afterwards, you kind of just have it sitting in the back of your shop doing nothing. Now, of course, air compressors you can always sell, so it's not a big deal in that sense. It's just basically, if you're going to do it, make sure that you have a reason to keep it afterwards. So one of the things on my tank, currently it's not on my tank because I had to take this off to get it around. So what I run on my tank is I got my regulator and just basic water filter on it to get some of the moisture out. That's all I run on mine right now. I do plan on getting a nicer dryer for it. The plasma cutter has complained about it, let's put it that way. Key rings and knickknacks. Yeah. Yeah, they can sell. There's no reason they can't. And also so with selling stuff, it all depends on where you're trying to sell. My main revenue of selling is on Etsy. As much as I would love to part ways with Etsy, what they offer from bringing people to you kind of thing, you can't really beat it. And I know a lot of people complain about their fees and all that, but it's actually one of the lower ones. I think eBay might be on par with them, but eBay, you're not going to get the same type of people that you're going to get on Etsy. So my main selling place is definitely Etsy right at this point in time. Oh, you don't plan on selling anything. Just, oh, and so, ooh, self-made trophies. You know what? There's nothing wrong with that at all. Not at all. I went into this craft with the thought of it will be a business one day. So for me, it's a little bit, everything is tied to that. So wish I could make that a little prettier, but I think it will do. It will do. Now, the fun part of getting it back into its corner, I'll hook up the regulator and stuff like that when I get it back over there. So now I get to walk it back in there. So please don't laugh. Like I said at the beginning of the show, these things are really top heavy. So, yeah, it's going to take me a little bit to get it back there. Do, 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 do. And I can't wire it up until I get it back there because this is relatively kind of hardwired in. I say kind of in a sense where it's on a really long extension cord that has become a little bit more permanent than temporary. So the extension cord that it's hooked up to is actually stapled basically to the wall. So yeah, don't mind me. The last little bit is hard. Getting around the filing cabinet and the drill press. I should actually show you what I'm doing. As much as I can. Whoop. Show you another corner of my shop. The messy corner of my shop. Whoop. And this is where it gets hard because the distance between my filing cabinet and my drill press is basically just enough to get this in. Both the filing cabinet and the drill press was placed after this was put in the corner. Now, before I put it in its final place, I actually have to wire it back up. Are we cleaning the messy corner next week? Next Monday. Maybe. We'll see. Depends if something else gets broken in the meantime. So, well, this new cable is so much nicer. I can almost get you right back in there. Almost. So, where is the screwdrivers that I need? Oh, they're over here. So, as for wiring, mine is, this is wired up to be 220. So wiring is real easy. Now, I'm not a licensed electrician, so, you know, if you don't know what you're doing, you should consult a electrician on it and all that. Now, one thing I do, anytime I'm disconnecting any wires, I will take a picture of how it was set up while it was working. So if I ever forget, I can go back to the picture I took to know exactly how it was hooked up before. Now this came to me wired up as 220, and I'm okay with that because my shop does have 220 in. Does have 220. It has its own panel actually, so it can. I can add a new 220 if I want. That's not a problem. That's the wrong screwdriver. And with 220 in North America, I guess anywhere, you can't really wire it up wrong from a hot kind of point of view, because both are technically hot. As long as you have your ground wire where the ground is, that is fine. And I am wiring it up exactly how I got it. So, now this little thing I'm actually hooking the wires up to controls when the motor goes on and off based on what pressure it is set to. By factory, this goes on at 125, kicks off at 150. And there's little springs back here. I can't pull you any closer. Little springs back here that tells it when to come on and off, and you can adjust when it comes on and off as you wish. I actually like the longer cord, yes. It is a lot nicer that I can pull you around a little bit more. I'm looking for the top of this thing. There we go. And on the top of this also has an on-off switch. Or I should say an on auto off, I mean an off auto off switch. And most of these will actually have a diagram inside telling you how to wire it up in case you have to replace this for whatever reason. I swear this came off of it. For some reason this top cover does not want to go back down. I'm not sure why. Yeah, there we go. Ground wire was a little bit in the way. There we go. That's all nice and tight down. Let's plug her in and fire her up for the first time in 4 days. And the line that this is hooked up to is the same line that my press is hooked up to. Oh, listen to that kitten purr. I'm actually going to turn down a little bit while I walk over there. Okay, back up a little bit. Oop. Ooh, I hear an air leak. Where's my air leak? Oh yeah, it's just the switch. It's just the switch. Does it sound happier? Well, it's able to fill up with air, so that's a lot better. Yeah, definitely giving it a clean does make it work a little bit less to get that compressed air going. Also fills up a lot faster. I have no idea how long it's been leaking a little bit because I often listen to music while I'm in here. Little things like an air leak, I don't notice that much. I'm not sure why that's leaking, but okay. I'll have to see why that's leaking. So I got a little leak going on, and I'm not sure. It's actually on the on-off switch. Ah, okay. It's so that little switch over there, when it's in the off position, it wants to bleed air. I don't know. But when I put it on, it works. It doesn't. I guess that is a safety feature I didn't realize it actually had. So, yeah. I don't know what else to say about that. Where are we at time-wise? Wow, I can't believe I rambled on for an hour and a half about air compressors. Wow. Anywho, let's get this camera back over here. My forge is not even in the right place anymore because of this. So we'll get you all set up for tomorrow. For our Tool Tuesday. Yeah, get you set up for tomorrow so I can just walk in and start wailing away on steel. Okay, I'm sorry I'm going to have to turn my mic off for a Oh, what tool am I making? I already told you what tool I'm making. I told you last week, Friday, I think. So, I am going to take, maybe not this one, maybe the other one, but I'm going to take a piece of coil spring. Where's the other piece? Is that the other one? No, that's not the piece. I'm going to be taking a piece of coil spring. One of the pieces I cut off from making my tongs. I swear I had another piece. Okay, is this it? I'll probably be using this piece. This is the truck spring that one of these pieces I will be using, and I will be making a nail header out of coil spring. So 3/4 coil spring. Yeah, a nail header. So a tool to make nails. It should be exciting. We'll go into how to make it and all that with this tomorrow. Don't worry about it. Anyways, yeah, that is air compressor. Maintenance Monday. You never know what's going to happen. Might be a lot of me talking. Might be a lot of me mucking up stuff. You never know. But that's Maintenance Monday. I will try and not make every Monday Maintenance Monday, but I can't promise anything. This is a working shop, and unfortunately, sometimes things need to get fixed. So that's it. I hope you learned something. I hope I entertained you at least. And we'll see you tomorrow for Tool Tuesday, where I'm going to be taking a chunk of coil spring and making a nail header. See you tomorrow. Thanks.